The moment I saw them together, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I locked the door and texted her husband an invitation to dinner. I knew you were useless, but I didn't think you'd be stupid enough to come home early, he spat, not even bothering to cover himself. There they were, her husband and her best friend, tangled together in the garage like she never existed. The betrayal didn't just sting, it hollowed her. Two people she trusted with her life had turned her home into a hiding place for their lies. But she didn't scream, she didn't cry, and she didn't collapse the way they expected. Instead, she locked the door, and with steady hands, she sent an invitation to one person who deserved to know the truth more than anyone, the best friend's husband. That night, a dinner was set. 4 people, 1 table, and a revelation no one was prepared for. Sometimes revenge is loud. Sometimes it is violent. But sometimes the quietest plans are the ones that bring the entire house crashing down. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Rachel felt the weight of the Cole family the moment she stepped through the tall glass doors. They always made her feel like she had shown up wearing the wrong clothes, even when she knew she looked fine. Vivien Cole stood near the dining room entrance, smiling in that polite, polished way she used whenever Rachel arrived. It wasn't warmth, it was inspection. "Rachel, good, you've finally made it," Vivien said, kissing the air near her cheek instead of actually touching her. "Traffic hard on your side of town?" There it was, the reminder that Rachel had grown up in a neighborhood Ethan would never drive through unless he had to. Rachel forced a smile and stepped forward, holding on to the edge of her purse like a lifeline. "No, traffic was light," she said. Vivian's eyebrows lifted, as if that answer somehow disappointed her. Ethan appeared beside his mother, brushing a hand across his tie and giving Rachel a quick kiss on the cheek. He didn't touch her waist the way he used to. He didn't even hold her for a second. Just a fast public gesture, almost like he was clocking in at work. "You're late," he whispered into her ear, low enough that only she could hear it. "Try not to draw attention to it." Rachel swallowed the sting. "I'm 10 minutes behind. That's not late." "It is here," he said, already walking away, calling to the server for wine. His voice changed when he spoke to other people. He became smoother, more charming, almost kind. She stood in the entrance for a moment, taking a breath to keep her eyes from burning, then followed the sound of clinking glasses into the dining room. Olivia Hart was already there. Her best friend turned her head and lit up like Rachel had walked in carrying a bouquet of good news. "Rachel, finally!" Olivia stood and hugged her tight. Warm, familiar, exactly the friend who had held her hand through the miscarriage last year. But something about her grip felt stronger than usual, confident in a way that didn't match the warmth in her voice. "You look tired," Olivia whispered with a laugh, patting Rachel's arm. "Don't worry, we'll get you through tonight." Rachel managed a small smile. She didn't feel tired, she felt watched. Olivia slid back into her seat beside Ethan, her shoulder brushing his as she sat down. He didn't move away. If anything, he seemed comfortable with her there. Too comfortable. They shared a quick glance, one of those looks people trade when they've already had a private conversation, and Rachel felt something cold crawl up her spine. She tried to shake it off. They'd been friends for years. Olivia flirted with everyone, and Ethan was particular about personal space. Maybe she was leaning in too much because she was excited. Rachel forced herself to breathe slowly and sit down. She didn't want to be the jealous wife. That wasn't her. "Rachel," Ethan said suddenly, correcting her posture with a tap on the table, "don't sit like that. You're slouching." The words weren't loud, but everyone heard them. Vivian's smile tightened. Ethan kept talking as if what he said was a normal part of dinner conversation. "You look unsure of yourself when you do that. Sit straight." Confidence, he said, pressing his fingers together like he was offering advice she should be grateful for. Try to look more polished. It reflects on both of us. Rachel felt her face heat. She adjusted her posture because arguing in front of his family would only make things worse. When she lifted her eyes, Olivia was watching her with a soft, sympathetic smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I think you look perfect," Olivia said in a light voice, touching Ethan's forearm in a way that felt too familiar to be playful. "Some people like real women, you know." Ethan chuckled, a low sound, and moved his arm only after a second too long. Rachel felt something twist inside her, but she didn't say anything. She picked up her water glass and kept her eyes on the tablecloth. Dinner moved forward. Vivien asked questions that sounded like checklists. Work, family, weekend plans. Ethan answered for Rachel half the time, and each time he did, he acted like he was clarifying something she would have said wrong. Rachel stayed quiet to avoid another correction. But the tension grew in small ways. Olivia leaned toward Ethan every time she laughed. Ethan corrected Rachel twice more in front of everyone. Vivien made comments about proper behavior that she disguised as motherly guidance. Michael wasn't here tonight. He was working late again, Olivia had said. When dessert was served, Rachel excused herself to the restroom to breathe. She stood at the sink, gripping the marble counter with both hands, telling herself she was imagining things. She was stressed, tired, still carrying pieces of grief from the pregnancy they lost. That was what this was. Not jealousy, not suspicion. She splashed cold water on her face and walked back toward the dining room. Voices drifted from the kitchen. Vivien's voice, then Olivia's. Rachel paused near the doorway, hidden from sight. "She tries, I'll give her that," Vivien said. "But Ethan married beneath him. Rachel doesn't understand the expectations of this family." "She's sweet," Olivia said softly, almost pitying. "But sweet isn't enough for a man like Ethan. He needs someone who mirrors him." Vivien let out a small laugh. "Exactly. She's not on his level. He carries her." "He does," Olivia agreed, surprising Rachel with how easily the words came out. "He deserves someone who fits beside him, not behind him." "Oh, I'm glad you see that," Vivien said. "You understand him better than she does." Rachel's stomach nodded. She pressed her hand over her mouth, feeling something break inside her in a quiet, fragile way. It wasn't just the critique. It was Olivia's tone. Soft, understanding, intimate. "I shouldn't say anything," Olivia continued, lowering her voice, "but she depends on him emotionally, financially, in every way. It must be exhausting for him." Vivien hummed as if agreeing. Rachel stepped back before they could see her. Something in her chest felt tight, like a bruise forming under the skin. She returned to the table before they could notice her absence, her heart pounding. Ethan met her eyes briefly, but he didn't notice her shaken expression. He was too busy checking his watch, tapping it like he had somewhere better to be. When they finally left the Cole estate, Rachel waited until they were halfway down the driveway before she spoke. "I heard Olivia and your mother talking about me." Ethan didn't even look up from the road. "What did they say?" "That I'm beneath you, that I'm exhausting, that you deserve someone who mirrors you." Ethan sighed, slow and annoyed. "Rachel, you take things too personally. They didn't mean anything." "You're not even surprised." "Because I know how you are," he said sharply. "You twist everything into a problem. If you spent less time being sensitive and more time improving yourself, maybe they wouldn't feel that way." Rachel stared at him. The words hit harder than she expected. He kept going. "And don't drag Olivia into this. She's been helpful to me, to us. Don't make her uncomfortable with your insecurities." Rachel turned toward the window, hiding her hurt behind silence. The next morning, she noticed something else. A large withdrawal from their shared account, money they had saved for house repairs and an emergency fund. She stared at the notification, confusion turning to concern. Ethan walked into the kitchen, grabbing his keys. "Did you move money from our account?" she asked. He didn't hesitate. "Yes, because I needed it. You didn't tell me." "I don't need your permission," he said, shrugging. "If you want to contribute, get a higher-paying job." The comment landed like a slap. Rachel felt her chest tighten. "That money was for the house, Ethan." "And I'll put it back when I'm ready," he said, rolling his eyes. "Can you not make every little thing dramatic? It's not little, and it's not dramatic. We're married. You can at least tell me when you take that much." He laughed under his breath. "You act like you actually pay into it." Rachel took a slow breath. "That's not fair." "What's not fair?" he snapped. "Is you questioning me like I'm hiding something. Stop trying to control everything. I'll handle the finances. You handle whatever it is you handle." She froze in place, watching him walk out the door without looking back. The silence he left behind felt heavier than his words. That night, Rachel tried to steady herself, tried to believe the tension was temporary. She'd known Ethan before all of this, before the pressure, before the money, before the grief. She tried to remember the man who held her through nights when she hadn't slept for days, but the memory felt far away. The next day, after her sister canceled their plans, Rachel decided to stop by Ethan's garage. She needed something from her trunk, and maybe, seeing Ethan at work would remind her that they were still a team. She drove over, rehearsing how she might surprise him with a coffee or offer to take him to lunch, something small to soften the sharp edges between them. She parked outside the garage, noticing the lights were on. She got out of the car and approached the side door, hearing faint laughter coming from inside. She hesitated, hand on the doorknob. It was probably just Ethan and a coworker. Maybe Olivia had dropped something off for the charity event. She pushed the door open slowly, the sound of laughter getting louder as she stepped inside. She took a few steps forward, following the voices toward the back of the garage. She rounded the corner and froze. She didn't breathe at first. Her mind refused to register what her eyes already knew. It felt like the air had thickened, like her body was made of something heavy and breakable. Ethan's shirt hung open. Olivia's hands were on him. Their bodies were tangled, clothes halfway off, Ethan's voice low and pleased in a way Rachel hadn't heard in months, maybe longer. For one suspended second, they didn't even see her. Then Ethan glanced up, and his expression didn't shift to guilt or shock. It hardened, annoyed, like she'd stepped into the wrong room. "I knew you were useless," he said, not even bothering to cover himself. "But I didn't think you'd be stupid enough to come home early." Olivia flinched for a moment. She pulled her top up, breathing fast, cheeks flushed, not with shame, but with irritation. Her eyes darted at Rachel, then quickly away, like she didn't want to look at the wife she had just betrayed. "Rachel," Olivia whispered, grabbing at her clothes. This isn't." Rachel didn't hear the rest. Everything inside her went quiet. There were no screams building, no tears pushing through. Just a strange, cold steadiness that spread through her body like a second heartbeat. Ethan stood fully now, buttoning his pants with no urgency. "This could have been handled like adults, but you love drama, don't you? You always have. Don't look at me like that. You did this. You pushed me away." Olivia tugged her skirt up, trying to smooth her hair, her voice shaky, but her eyes calculating. "Rachel, listen, this was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen today. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Mistake. Like she'd spilled wine on a carpet. Like they hadn't blown a hole through Rachel's life. Rachel took a slow breath and backed up toward the door. Ethan stepped forward. "Where do you think you're going? We're talking about this." She didn't answer. Her hand found the door handle without looking. She stepped out, pulled the door shut, and locked it from the outside. At first, there was silence. A still moment where the click of the lock echoed louder than any scream. Then Ethan thudded against the door. "Are you out of your mind? Open this door! Rachel, open it!" Olivia's voice rose behind him. "Rachel, please don't. This is humiliating. Ethan, tell her!" Rachel stepped back until the wall hit her spine. She stared at the closed door, listening to the pounding, the muffled voices. Her own heartbeat sounded quiet. Too quiet. Like her body was refusing to feel anything until she could handle the truth. She walked to her car, opened the door, and slid into the seat. The world outside the windshield felt blurry, too bright, like she'd stepped into someone else's life by accident, and any second now she would blink and wake up. Her hands shook, so she placed them flat on her thighs, grounding herself with the pressure. A phone buzzed in her purse. At first, she thought it was Ethan's. Then she realized it was hers. Her screen lit up with a text from Olivia, sent before the garage. "Made up with Michael. We're doing a little weekend getaway. No phones, just us." Rachel stared at the message, reading it twice. A lie. One of many. More pounding from the garage. "Rachel," Ethan yelled, "you're being insane." She closed her eyes. She wasn't insane. She was awake for the first time in a long time. She reached into her purse and pulled out her own phone. Her contacts blurred for a second as tears finally reached the back of her throat, but she swallowed them down. She wasn't crying. She wouldn't cry here. She scrolled until she found the name. Michael Hart, Olivia's husband, the man who still believed his wife was visiting a spa with her girlfriends this weekend, the man who worked under Ethan and trusted him, the man who deserved to sit at a table tonight and look the truth in the face. Rachel's thumb hovered over his name. Her breathing slowed, her heartbeat steadied. She tapped the message field and typed, "Michael, I need you at my house tonight. Dinner. Just you, Ethan, Olivia, me." She read it once, twice. It felt unreal, like her hands were moving without her. Her phone buzzed before she could put it down. "Michael, is everything okay?" She stared at the words for a moment. Ethan's voice still echoed behind the locked door. Olivia's frantic, almost angry pleading pressed through the walls like static. Rachel typed slowly, carefully. "No, but you deserve to know why." Another vibration. "Michael, no, what?" Rachel tightened her grip on the phone, her nails pressing into her palm. She could have told him everything right now. She could have sent pictures, audio, proof, but she didn't want chaos. She wanted clarity. She wanted them all in one place. One table, one truth. "Tonight at 7, she typed. "Michael, Rachel, what's happening?" Rachel looked at the garage one last time. Then she typed the last message. "You'll see." She hit send. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from and how did this story speak to you? Rachel set the table with the same calm she used when she was teaching kids how to tie their shoes. Slow, patient, controlled. The plates didn't rattle, the silverware didn't shake, but her heartbeat felt like it was trying to punch a hole through her ribs. Ethan walked through the dining room behind her, straightening his collar and muttering under his breath. Olivia hovered close to him, quiet and tense, pretending to fix her makeup in the hallway mirror. They had gotten home only 20 minutes earlier after finally forcing the garage door open. Ethan had been red-faced and furious, demanding explanations Rachel never gave. Olivia kept staring at the ground like she expected someone to throw a spotlight on her. Rachel said nothing except, "Dinner's at 7, please be ready." Now the house was too clean, too still, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm cuts power to an entire neighborhood. Ethan watched Rachel with narrowed eyes. "Whatever you think you're doing tonight, end it now." She didn't look up. "Set the water glasses." He stared at her, stunned she'd spoken to him like he was a guest instead of the king of the house. When she didn't look away, he scoffed and grabbed the glasses. Olivia stepped into the room wearing a soft smile, but her eyes were still shaken. "Rachel, maybe we should talk privately first, clear the air." "We'll talk as a group," Rachel said, arranging napkins. "Rachel," Ethan snapped, "don't embarrass us." "You already did that," she said softly. Ethan flinched. Olivia looked away. The words weren't loud, but they cut clean. The doorbell rang. Everything froze for a heartbeat. Michael had arrived. Ethan's jaw twitched. Olivia's breath hitched. Rachel didn't blink. She walked to the door and opened it. Michael stood there, shoulders tight, eyes scanning her face. He wasn't dressed up, not like Ethan. He still wore his work shirt, sleeves rolled, hair slightly messy. But there was something in his expression. Worry, confusion, and a hint of suspicion. "Rachel," he said, voice low, "you sounded different in your messages. Is everything okay?" "No," Rachel answered. "Come in." He stepped inside, looking around like the house itself might explain something. Olivia appeared in the doorway between rooms, giving him a bright, shaky smile. "Hey, honey," she said, moving fast to hug him. He didn't hug her back. Rachel watched Olivia's hand linger on his arm, desperate for normalcy. He gently removed it. "What's this dinner about?" he asked, voice steady. "We're going to tell the truth," Rachel said. "All of it." Ethan let out a laugh so forced it snapped in half halfway through. Rachel, this is ridiculous. If you're having some emotional episode, don't drag other people into it. Olivia stepped forward quickly. Michael, before Rachel says anything, she's been under a lot of stress, and I think... Rachel pulled out a chair. Sit. All of you. Her tone made even Ethan pause. They sat. 4 seats, 4 people, a table that suddenly felt like a stage. Rachel took the last seat, looking at each of them one by one. Michael leaned forward. Rachel, what's going on? Rachel didn't raise her voice. She didn't tremble. She simply said the words. Ethan and Olivia are having an affair. A single second of silence dropped into the center of the room like a stone into a lake. Ethan immediately scoffed aloud, dismissive. Oh my God, are we really doing this? Olivia inhaled sharply. Rachel, that's not... Rachel held up one hand. The room went silent again. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. You said you were going on a weekend getaway with Michael, she said to Olivia. You were lying. You were with Ethan. Olivia swallowed hard. You're twisting things. She clicked the screen and laid it flat on the table. The message thread showed dates, times, locations, receipts, screenshots, patterns. Olivia and Ethan hadn't thought she would ever look closely enough to see. Michael leaned in. His face began to drain of color. Olivia, he said, voice shaking. What is this? Olivia reached for the phone, but Rachel pulled it back. No, Rachel said. Not yet. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Enough! You're acting unstable, Rachel. Just because we've been distant doesn't mean you get to invent stories. You should be embarrassed making accusations like... Rachel cut him off. You were with her in the garage this afternoon. Michael's head snapped toward Ethan so fast the chair creaked beneath him. Ethan blinked once, twice, then leaned back with a cold laugh. You're unbelievable. You're lying to his face now. Rachel opened her bag and set something else on the table. The garage key. Michael stared at it, then at Rachel. What happened in the garage? Rachel didn't answer him directly. She looked at Ethan instead. Tell him. Ethan's face twitched. Rachel, stop this. You're humiliating yourself. She walked in on us, Olivia whispered suddenly, voice cracking. Michael froze. Ethan turned sharply to Olivia. Shut up! No, Olivia said louder this time. She did. She saw. Michael stood up so fast his chair nearly toppled. You two were together today while I was at work? Olivia reached for him. Michael, listen. He stepped back, hand up like he was blocking fire. Don't touch me. Rachel watched Olivia's whole body deflate. The lies she'd prepared weren't enough anymore. Ethan stood too, pointing at Rachel. This is her fault. She wants to ruin us because she's not stable. She's been a mess ever since the miscarriage. Rachel's breath caught. Michael's face twisted in confusion and anger. Ethan kept going, voice steady, controlled. Dangerous. She hasn't been herself. She imagines people turning against her. She makes up stories. She's paranoid. And this, he gestured to the table, is her lashing out. You know how grief affects people. Olivia nodded quickly. She's been struggling, Michael. She needs help, not blame. Rachel felt something cold spread through her chest. They were doing it again, twisting the truth until she sounded like the problem, like she was unbalanced. Michael's eyes darted between them, unsure. Rachel spoke softly, almost gently. Ethan, stop using the miscarriage like a shield. You weren't there for me then. You haven't been for a long time. Ethan's jaw tightened. Don't rewrite history. I'm not rewriting anything, she said. I'm remembering. Olivia folded her arms, voice shaking with fake concern. Rachel, you're hurting. We understand that. Rachel laughed, a small, exhausted breath of disbelief. You understand nothing. Michael rubbed his forehead, pacing behind his chair. Olivia, when did this start? How long? Olivia's eyes darted to Ethan, begging for direction. He didn't look at her. She stammered, I don't know. It wasn't serious. Rachel finally leaned forward. It started before my miscarriage. Michael stopped walking. Olivia inhaled sharply, face flushing with guilt and panic. Olivia covered her face, shoulders shaking. Michael looked like someone had kicked the air out of him. Ethan stood straighter, seeing control slipping through his fingers. She's making this worse than it is. I wasn't myself then. We were going through something. You were going through something? Rachel whispered. I lost our child, and you were cheating on me. For the first time, Ethan's expression faltered, but then he recovered, lifting his chin. Stop crying victim. You know what? Maybe this marriage hasn't worked because you can't handle the life you begged for. You want to blame me for everything wrong in your world. Rachel stared at him. I never begged for anything. I begged for you to love me. Silence. Olivia's sobs were quiet, shallow. Michael stood behind his chair, hands gripping the back so hard his knuckles turned white. Ethan exhaled harshly through his nose. This is going nowhere. After tonight, I'm talking to my lawyer. We're done. Olivia's head jerked up. Ethan? And believe me, Rachel, he said, voice low and sharp, you won't walk away with anything. Not the house, not the money, not even your last name. I'll make sure everyone knows you're unstable. I'll make sure they see the truth. He leaned closer, eyes drilling into hers. You are nothing without me. Rachel didn't flinch, but her phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up absent-mindedly, then froze. A bank notification. A large international transfer from an account in her name, authorized by Ethan. Olivia saw her expression change. Rachel, what is it? Ethan watched her too, carefully, too calmly. Rachel set the phone down slowly. She read the alert again, every word sinking deeper. Ethan hadn't just cheated. He hadn't just lied. He had forged her digital signature on a large transfer tied to his company's finances. Her breathing slowed. Her fingers felt numb. Michael leaned closer. Rachel, what's wrong? She looked up. Her voice was steady. He's not trying to leave me. Her eyes locked on Ethan's. He's trying to ruin me. Ethan didn't blink. His silence confirmed everything, and the truth settled over her like a shadow she'd never escape from, unless she fought back. He didn't just want her gone, he was preparing to destroy her completely. Michael stared at Rachel like he was waiting for her to say it was a mistake, a glitch, anything other than what he already sensed in her eyes. Olivia looked between Ethan and Rachel, panic rising in her throat. And Ethan? Ethan sat back in his chair with a stillness that wasn't fear. It was calculation. Rachel felt the entire room shift. Something cold slid into place inside her. A quiet understanding. This was never just an affair. Ethan had been building an exit, and she wasn't meant to walk away from it intact. Michael stepped closer. Rachel, what did he do? Ethan answered before she could speak. She's confused. His tone softened into that controlled, patronizing calm he used whenever he tried to rewrite reality. She sees numbers she doesn't understand. I handle the finances. She panics over everything. Rachel turned the phone so all three of them could see the transfer. The amount was high enough to ruin her, maybe even jail her. Olivia gasped quietly. Ethan, what is this? Ethan didn't turn to her. I said she's confused. Rachel held the phone steady, her band barely trembling. It was authorized with my signature. Michael swore under his breath. Rachel, tell me you didn't sign this. She shook her head. Ethan leaned forward, voice clipped. It's an automatic authorization. She's always been careless with our accounts. She probably clicked something without paying attention. Don't, Rachel whispered. Don't pretend this was an accident. Ethan's eyes hardened. Sit down. Michael stepped between them. No, you explain this right now. Ethan glared at him, the polite mask cracking. This is a family matter. Step out of it. You dragged me into your home, Michael shot back. You let me sit at this table, and I'm looking at something that could put her in prison. I'm not stepping out of anything. Olivia rose from her seat, voice shaking. Ethan, please tell us you didn't use her name on your accounts? Ethan turned on her with a venom Rachel had never seen him show Olivia. I told you to shut up. She froze, stunned by the sharpness. Rachel watched the shift happen, the power lines inside the room rearranging. Olivia wasn't beside him anymore. She was behind him, and he had no intention of pulling her back to his side. Michael sat down slowly, rubbing his forehead. I knew something was off at work. Funds were moving between accounts without explanation. When I asked questions, Ethan told me it was above my pay grade. He looked up at Ethan, anger settling into his shoulders. And you tied your wife to it? Ethan scoffed. She's legally part of the company. If she bothered to read what she signs, I didn't sign anything, Rachel said. Then maybe someone used your login. This isn't my fault. Rachel stared at him. You forged my signature. Olivia stepped back, like she needed distance from Ethan. Ethan, this is serious. You said the accounts were clean. You said everything was clean. He snapped his head toward her. I said, shut up. She flinched. Rachel felt the smallest flicker of something dark and honest inside her chest. Satisfaction. Olivia finally knew how it felt to be on the receiving end of Ethan's contempt. Michael pushed the phone back toward Rachel. You need to call someone. The bank. A lawyer. Ethan laughed outright. And tell them what? That your fragile little mind imagined I'm stealing money?
They'll look at your recent breakdown and tell you to get help. What breakdown? Michael asked sharply. Ethan clasped his hands. She's been unstable for months, emotional, forgetful, paranoid. She accused my mother of plotting against her. She accused Olivia of manipulating her. And now she's turning a simple transfer into criminal activity. She's drowning in her own insecurity. Rachel spoke quietly. That's what you're planning to tell the court. Ethan leaned back, slow and smug. It's not a plan if it's true. For the first time, Michael truly looked afraid, not for himself, but for Rachel. You're setting her up, he said. You're really doing this? I'm protecting myself, Ethan corrected. If my name goes down with the company, hers does too. Legally, she's safer taking the blame. No one expects her to know what she's doing with finances. Judges eat that up. Rachel felt her pulse in her throat. You want a divorce where I lose everything? And if the company fails, I take the fall. Ethan didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. Olivia pressed a hand to her mouth as the realization hit. Ethan, you told me. She stopped, shaking her head. You told me the accounts were a formality. You said Rachel had signed everything. She did. Ethan's voice was cold, one way or another. Rachel swallowed. How long have you been planning this? Ethan shrugged. Long enough. Michael's chair scraped the floor as he stood. You sick son of... Ethan rose fast, jaw tight, fury rising beneath his polished exterior. Watch yourself. You work for me. Not after tonight, Michael snapped. Then you'll lose the house, Ethan shot back. The mortgage I co-signed, I can pull out of that, and Olivia sure as hell can't cover it. Olivia stared at him like he'd slapped her. You said you would help us if I... She couldn't. She fell, finished the sentence. Rachel quietly noticed the missing piece. If she what? Ethan's eyes flicked toward Olivia. Anger, warning, control. And Olivia finally broke. Her voice cracked. You used me. You told me if I stayed quiet and waited for you to leave, Rachel, you'd help Michael get promoted. You'd help us buy the new house. You'd take care of us. Rachel's stomach twisted. So you helped him forge my signature? Olivia shook her head, panicked. No, I didn't know about that. I swear I didn't know. I never would have, Rachel. I never would have let him drag you into something illegal. Ethan barked a humorless laugh. Please, you never cared about her as long as you got what you wanted. Olivia stared at him like she no longer recognized him. The man she thought she was trading her life for was gone. Or maybe he had never been real. Michael steps between Olivia and Ethan as if sensing something darker rising in the room. No one else talks. Not another word. We need to handle this legally. Ethan slammed his fist against the table. This is my family, my house, my business, and you, he pointed at Rachel, have been nothing but dead weight. If you think anyone is going to believe your hysterics over me, try it. I'll bury you in paperwork and affidavits before you even find a lawyer. Rachel didn't move. Her breathing steadied, her mind cleared. It was almost frightening how calm she felt as she looked at him. You're not trying to protect yourself, she said softly. Ethan smirked. I already told you. You're trying to erase me. His smirk faltered. You cheated, lied, manipulated, you stole money and used my name, and now you're trying to destroy me before I can destroy you. Ethan's jaw worked, but he stayed silent. Silence was confirmation. Michael ran a hand over his face. "Rachel, what are you going to do?" She looked at him, at Olivia, at Ethan. Then she picked up her phone. Her hand didn't shake. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the person she needed, a bank manager. Ethan's face darkened. "Don't you dare." Rachel lifted her eyes to his. "Watch me." She pressed the call button. Ethan lunged forward, but Michael stepped between them, blocking him. Rachel lifted the phone to her ear, and the manager answered. "Miss Miller, I saw the authorization earlier today. Is everything all right?" Ethan's eyes widened. He knew what came next. Rachel spoke in a calm voice that came from somewhere new inside her, stronger, sharper. "No, everything is not all right." The room went still. The air tightened. Michael's breath caught. Olivia began to shake again. Ethan's eyes filled with something new. Fear. And Rachel finally understood her place in the story. She wasn't the victim. She was the one holding the match. She inhaled and prepared to expose the first piece. Then Ethan whispered, voice low, lethal, meant only for her. "You talk, and I will make sure you never walk away from this." She held his stare, then answered the manager. "About that transfer, I'd like to report fraud." Rachel woke the next morning to silence that felt staged, too perfect, too controlled. The house was spotless, the lights off, and Ethan's side of the bed empty. No note, no explanation, just absence. She reached for her phone and watched it deny her. Password error, account locked. She tried her banking app. Access denied. Credit card declined. One by one, every door in her digital life slammed shut. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He didn't even slam a single drawer. He isolated her with precision. By noon, she couldn't log into anything connected to their life. Not the mortgage account, not the health insurance, not the shared car insurance. Ethan had stripped her out of her own world without raising his voice. She walked into the kitchen and found a single envelope on the counter addressed to her. Not handwritten, printed, cold. "Your spending privileges have been paused due to concerning behavior." Concerning behavior? As if protecting herself from his crimes made her unstable? She tore the paper in half. The phone rang. Vivien. Rachel stared at the screen, debating. Then she picked up. "Rachel," Vivien said, her voice dripping with worry that felt scripted. "Sweetheart, Ethan handles your finances for a reason. You've never been comfortable with numbers." Rachel closed her eyes. "That doesn't mean he can sign my name." "If you're struggling, we can help," Vivien continued gently. "In fact, I have some papers Ethan asked me to give you. They protect both of you, and they might calm everyone down." "What kind of papers?" "Oh, nothing dramatic. Just a few authorizations. Medical, financial, so you can get the support you need." Rachel's stomach twisted. "You want me to sign something without reading it?" "Don't be difficult, Rachel," Vivien said, still using the voice of a concerned mother. "This isn't the time to fight. This is the time to let the family take care of you." Rachel hung up. She stood there shaking, not from fear, but from the growing understanding that everyone around Ethan moved like pieces on his board, and she had been the slowest to realize she wasn't one of the players. She was a pawn. By evening, the rumors reached her. The first text came from a mutual friend. "Hey, are you okay? Heard you had a breakdown at dinner." "A breakdown?" she replied. "I didn't. Someone lied to you." The friend didn't respond. A second message came from another friend she'd known for years. "Ethan's worried about you. You should listen to him." A third, "We're here if you need support. Just take some time away from social media." She hadn't even posted anything, but the story was already out there. Rachel was unstable. Rachel was irrational. Rachel was lashing out. Every lie Ethan dropped into the world found a place to grow. She sat on the edge of the couch, her phone buzzing over and over until she shut it off. Her hands shook as she pushed her hair back, feeling the weight of isolation settle on her chest like sand piling on a buried person. The doorbell rang. She froze. When she opened it, Olivia stood there, wrapped in a soft sweater, eyes wide with sympathy that looked hand-painted. "Rachel," she whispered, stepping in like she'd been invited. "I'm so worried about you." Rachel didn't speak. Olivia closed the door gently behind her. "Everyone is talking. People are saying you're not yourself. I've been telling them that you're just overwhelmed and that you need space." "Space," Rachel echoed. Yes, to process everything. Olivia sat on the couch, crossing her legs with the calmness of someone visiting a friend in a hospital. You went through a lot last night. Anyone would spiral. Rachel stared at her. Spiral? I confronted you about sleeping with my husband. Olivia's smile tightened. You're hurting. I understand that, and I don't blame you for projecting. Rachel blinked. Projecting? Olivia leaned in. No one will judge you if you admit you imagined parts of it. Stress does that. Rachel's heart thudded. I didn't imagine anything. Olivia's voice softened. Then why are the details different every time you tell them? Rachel swallowed. They're not. See, Olivia said gently, that confusion is what people are worried about. Rachel felt heat rise behind her eyes, not from tears, but from pressure. The pressure of her reality being twisted right in front of her face. Olivia touched her hand. And Ethan is trying his best. He's trying to protect you from yourself. Rachel pulled her hand away. Olivia stood, still wearing the soft, broken expression she'd rehearsed. Just take a few days offline. Let the rumors die out. I'll help. I always help. Rachel stepped back. Get out. Olivia blinked, surprised. Rachel? Get out of my house. Olivia's face faltered, then hardened just for a second, just long enough for Rachel to see the truth behind the performance. Then Olivia smoothed her expression and walked to the door. I tried. The door clicked shut. Rachel sank down slowly, feeling the last piece of her old life break. She turned her phone back on. A new email alert appeared immediately. A bank notice. Rachel stared at the subject line. Notice of investigation regarding accounts associated with you. Her throat tightened as she opened it. There were numbers she didn't recognize, transfers she'd never authorized, account histories she'd never seen, every document tied to her during the years she trusted Ethan with everything. The email ended with, "Please be advised that you may be contacted for questioning." Rachel gripped the phone until her knuckles ached. He wasn't just trying to ruin her socially, he was tying her to financial crimes. She called Michael. He answered on the second ring, voice tired and strained. Rachel, he forged more than one signature, she said. There are multiple accounts. Michael exhaled a long breath. I'm not surprised. Not surprised? Rachel whispered. You knew? I suspected, he said reluctantly. Transfers went missing from internal ledgers. Ethan told me to ignore it, told me to trust him. Why didn't you say anything? Because speaking up could have cost me my job, Michael said, voice cracking. I'm sorry. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Rachel felt the floor drop under her. So you won't help me? He hesitated. I don't know what I can do without losing everything, he said. I have to think of my future. Rachel closed her eyes. Even her last possible ally was stepping back. Michael added quieter. Ethan is dangerous when cornered. Be careful. The call ended. Rachel sat in the dim living room, every shadow feeling heavier, every breath harder. Then her phone buzzed again, a notification, but not from Ethan and not from the bank. It was a social media tag. Olivia had posted a smiling photo of herself at a cafe with the caption, "Sending love to anyone struggling right now. Be kind. You never know what someone is going through." And underneath it, a heart, 3 prayer hands, a comment from a mutual friend. You're such a good friend to Rachel. Rachel's vision blurred, not from tears, but from fury. She turned the phone off and pressed it to her chest, feeling her heartbeat racing against it like a trapped animal. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was coordinated, deliberate. Ethan and Olivia were burying her story by burying her reputation, and the world was letting them. Rachel didn't know how long she sat in the darkened living room after Olivia's post went viral in their small social circle. It spread fast, too fast. The comments rolled in like waves, pulling her underwater. People she had known for years, people who had held her baby shower gifts and hugged her after the miscarriage, now wrote things like, "You deserve friends like Olivia. Please get help. Sending prayers. Stay strong." Every word painted her as broken. Every message erased her truth. She stood slowly, her legs stiff, her throat tight. She walked to the kitchen for water, but the glass slipped from her hand before she could fill it. It shattered across the tile. She stared at the pieces without moving. This is how her life felt, splintered, scattered, sharp enough to cut her if she touched anything too quickly. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made her feel like she wasn't meant to exist inside it anymore. When the door clicked open, she flinched. Ethan stepped in like he owned the air, calm, polished, a man stepping into his perfect home after a productive day at work. He hung up his coat and loosened his tie, not even glancing at the broken glass. "Why is it dark in here?" he asked. Rachel didn't answer. Then he noticed the shattered glass. "You should clean that up before you hurt yourself." He stepped past her and opened the fridge for a drink, moving like nothing in the world was out of place, like he hadn't erased her access to every financial account, like he hadn't fed half the city a story about her mental breakdown, like he had an affair with her best friend and planned to frame her for fraud. He turned to her, sipping his water. "You talked to the bank today?" Rachel didn't move. "Bad idea," he continued, shrugging. "It makes you look unstable, desperate. They'll assume you're panicking, which clearly you are." "I'm not panicking," she said softly. "You are," he said, "and I'm documenting everything." Her stomach tightened. "Documenting?" "Yes, your behavior, your outbursts, the messages you've sent people. It's all helpful for when we move forward with the divorce." Rachel's voice cracked. "You're destroying me." Ethan set down his water bottle and leaned against the counter like he was settling into a casual conversation. "I'm protecting myself," he said. "You're collateral damage. It happens." Collateral damage. The words cut sharper than glass. "Why?" Rachel whispered. "Why are you doing this to me?" He stared at her like the answer should have been obvious. "Because you were never built for this life, and I'm not letting you drag me down with your emotions." She stepped back, her hands trembling. "I loved you." "And I needed someone who would stay quiet," he said. "You used to be good at that." Rachel turned away from him before he could see the break in her expression. She walked down in the hall and shut the bedroom door behind her. Her chest hurt, not from sadness, but from pressure. The pressure of knowing she had no money, no friends, no narrative left. She slid down the door until she sat on the floor, pulling her knees close. Her breath shuddered. She pressed her forehead against her legs, trying to hold herself steady. She didn't know when she fell asleep, but she woke to sunlight and her phone buzzing nonstop. She sat up groggy and checked the notifications. A headline caught her eye. New charity gala chairs announced. Ethan Cole and Olivia Hart. Her stomach dropped. A photo of Ethan and Olivia smiling together filled the screen. Olivia in a sleek dress, Ethan with his hand lightly but confidently on her back. They looked like a couple. The article praised their long-standing partnership, and worse, it described Rachel as stepping back due to stress. She felt something inside her collapse. She wasn't just removed from the narrative, she was erased. The doorbell rang again. She didn't want to answer it, but something pushed her to stand, to move, to exist. When she opened it, Michael stood on the porch, eyes tired, face apologetic. Her throat tightened. "Why are you here?" he exhaled. "To tell you the truth, I didn't tell you yesterday." Rachel opened the door wider, and he stepped inside, shoulders slumped. "I knew," he said quietly. "Not about the garage, not about how deep the affair was, but I knew Ethan was using my accounts at work. I knew he was manipulating ledgers. I didn't know he was putting it on you." Rachel felt her heartbeat thud painfully. "And you didn't warn me." Michael nodded slowly, shame in every line of his face. "I was scared. I've got no savings, no cushion, and Ethan made sure everyone knew my job depended on him." "So you let him do it?" she whispered. Michael's eyes filled. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't help me," she said. "Sorry doesn't clear my name." He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "I know." The pity in his voice hit her harder than his confession. She realized she couldn't count on him. He wasn't her enemy, but he wasn't her ally, not when loyalty cost him something. After he left, Rachel stood in the doorway for a long time, staring out at a world that felt foreign. She checked her email again. Another notice. A forwarded exchange between Ethan and someone else. A draft statement. Rachel Miller has been struggling emotionally since our miscarriage. Her accusations stem from grief and confusion, not reality. Please respect our privacy as we help her get the care she needs. A tear slid down her cheek then. Not because she believed he'd win, not because she thought she'd lose. She cried because he had taken the most painful moment of her life and turned it into a weapon. The room blurred through her tears.
She wasn't just losing her marriage, she was losing her identity. She sat down at the table and laid her head in her hands. The house felt like it was shrinking around her. Every breath felt heavy. Every sound felt distant. She had never felt smaller, never felt more alone, never felt more defeated. A soft knock broke the silence again. Not loud, not urgent, almost hesitant. Rachel wiped her face and opened the door. Marcus Lee stood there, Ethan's business partner. Quiet, steady, serious, a man who never wasted words. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes searched hers like he was assessing damage. "Rachel," he said calmly. Her throat tightened. "If Ethan sent you—" "He didn't," Marcus said. "He doesn't know I'm here." Something in his tone made her step aside. He walked in, holding a thin folder under his arm. He didn't sit. He stood in front of her like this wasn't a social visit, but a moment she would remember for the rest of her life. "I've seen everything," Marcus said. "The accounts, the transfers, the signatures, the lies he's spreading about you." Rachel's breath caught. "And you didn't say anything?" "I couldn't. Not until now." His jaw tightened. "If Ethan goes down, he will take you with him. He's already set that up." Rachel felt her knees weaken. Marcus handed her the folder. "This," he said quietly, "is your only way out." She stared at it, afraid to touch it. "What's in it?" Marcus looked straight into her eyes. "Proof of what Ethan has really been doing, and why." Rachel's fingers closed over the edge of the folder. Her pulse skipped. Her breath stopped. Inside this file was a truth darker than she imagined, and it held the power to either save her or destroy them all. Rachel didn't open the folder Marcus handed her right away. She held it on her lap for a long moment, feeling its weight like it carried a new version of her life. When she finally pulled the first document free, her breath caught. It wasn't just evidence. It was a map of Ethan's lies. Accounts, transfers, messages he thought were deleted, his handwriting, his digital signature layered over hers. A timeline showing when he shifted money, when he involved Olivia, when he called Rachel unstable, when he began crafting the narrative of her breakdown. Marcus watched her quietly. He didn't expect anyone to question him. Rachel turned another page. Ethan's private messages to Olivia appeared. Plans, promises, a future trip to Europe with Olivia the week after he intended to file for divorce. A line near the bottom made Rachel's fingers tighten. Once Rachel signs the statements, she'll be out of the way. Out of the way, as if she were a piece of furniture blocking his view. Rachel closed the folder. Her heartbeat slowed, not with fear, with certainty. "Why give me this?" she asked. Marcus folded his hands behind his back. "Because I thought Ethan was reckless, but I didn't think he was cruel. I didn't think he'd destroy his own wife to save himself." Rachel swallowed. "He would." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "And if he goes down alone, he'll reach for you first. This file ensures he can't." Rachel exhaled a shaky breath. "Thank you." "This isn't a favor," Marcus replied. "This is survival." After he left, Rachel stood in her silent living room with the folder pressed to her chest. The house no longer felt like Ethan's fortress. It felt like a place she could reclaim. For the first time since the garage, she didn't feel afraid. She felt focused. She spent the next 3 days rebuilding herself piece by piece. She changed her passwords, opened a private email, booked meetings with people who would believe documentation over rumors. She contacted the bank with proof of fraud. She recorded conversations. She made copies of every document Marcus provided and stored them in 3 places. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't confront Ethan. She didn't warn Olivia. Silence became her strategy. The gala invitation arrived on the 4th day. She hadn't forgotten it. The event Ethan and Olivia were chairing, the event that showcased their carefully curated reputation. Rachel stared at the embossed lettering and felt something dark and steady settle inside her. This was the stage. This was the moment. She chose a simple dress from the back of her closet. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just clean and sharp. She pinned her hair back, looked in the mirror, and saw someone she hadn't seen in a long time. A woman who wasn't afraid to look people in the eye. And she arrived at the gala. Cameras flashed and voices murmured. She wasn't supposed to be here. Rumors said she was unwell. Vivien had whispered she needed rest. Olivia had assured everyone she was taking time away. But Rachel walked in anyway. Heads turned, conversations paused. A few people approached her with uncomfortable smiles, the kind that said they didn't know which version of her to believe. She didn't engage, not yet. She saw Ethan across the room first. Perfectly tailored suit, confident smile, arm draped casually around Olivia's waist like she belonged there. Olivia saw Rachel next, her face drained of color. Ethan followed her gaze, and for the first time since the garage, he looked unsettled. Just a flicker, just long enough for Rachel to know he hadn't expected her to come. He excused himself from a donor and walked toward her with that smooth, polished stride he used in boardrooms. "Rachel," he said under his breath when he reached her, "you can't be here." "Yes," she said simply, "I can." "You're going to embarrass yourself," he hissed, smile still fixed for the onlookers. She nodded. "We'll see." Before Ethan could respond, Olivia approached, face stretched tight with a practiced expression of concern. "Rachel," she whispered, touching her arm as if they were close, "you should go home. You must be overwhelmed." Rachel stepped away from her touch. "Don't pretend you care." Olivia blinked rapidly, trying to regain her footing. "I do care. I've always cared, but this isn't the place to—" "It's exactly the place," Rachel said. A reporter drifted closer, sensing tension. Ethan noticed and placed a hand on Rachel's back, smiling like they were all one big, happy family. "Let's not cause a scene," he said through clenched teeth. Rachel looked up at him calmly. "A scene isn't my style." "Good," he said, relaxing. She held his gaze. "Truth is—" His smile froze. "Rachel," he warned quietly, "don't start something you can't finish." She smiled back. "I already have." She stepped away from him and walked toward the small stage set up near the front. People murmured. Ethan followed fast, nearly tripping over a server. Olivia trailed behind him, her heels clicking like panic. Before they could reach her, Rachel took the microphone, waiting for the evening hosts. She didn't ask permission, she didn't wait for applause. The room quieted on instinct. Her voice was clear. "Good evening." Ethan froze halfway across the floor. Olivia grabbed his arm, whispering something frantic. Rachel continued, "I won't take much of your time. I know everyone came here tonight to celebrate charity and community, but before donations are made, I think it's important to talk about trust." The room shifted. People leaned forward. A few turned to stare at Ethan and Olivia, sensing the undertow pulling the night in a new direction. Rachel held up the folder Marcus had given her. "Some of you know my husband, Ethan Cole," she said. "You've trusted him, respected him. Many of you work with him." Ethan started pushing through the crowd. "Rachel, get down from there." She raised the volume of her voice just enough to silence him. "What you don't know is that Ethan has been moving money through fraudulent accounts, accounts in my name, accounts created without my consent." A ripple ran through the room. She opened folder and pulled out the first page. "This is one of the transfers," she said. "This is his approval. And this," she held up another page, "is my forged digital signature." Ethan shouted, "Don't listen to her. She's lying."
Rachel didn't look at him. "I have more," she said. "Messages, ledgers, proof that Ethan planned to blame me for every illegal transfer if the company was audited." The crowd gasped. Phones lifted. Cameras clicked. Olivia's face drained completely. Rachel kept going, calm and surgical. And it didn't stop at money. Ethan and Olivia, she paused as every head turned, began an affair months before the miscarriage I suffered. They planned to use my grief to paint me as unstable. Olivia broke. Then a tiny sob escaped her. She covered her mouth with shaking hands. Ethan lunged toward the stage, furious. "Stop this. You don't have proof." Rachel stepped aside. "Michael," she said, as if waiting for his cue. Michael walked out from the crowd and stepped onto the stage beside her. He looked exhausted, angry, and determined. He spoke into the second microphone. "I used to work for Ethan. I saw the accounts, I saw the transfers, and I stayed silent because he threatened my job." The room erupted. Rachel looked out at the sea of shocked faces, and for the first time in a long time, she felt tall. She felt whole. She felt believed. And Ethan felt cornered, exactly where she needed him to be. The room fell into a stunned silence as Michael's words settled over the crowd. People who had smiled at Ethan an hour ago now stepped back from him like he carried something contagious. Cameras shifted, microphones lifted, and whispers rippled across the ballroom like wind cutting through tall grass. Olivia looked at Michael with betrayal twisting her features. "You said you wouldn't get involved," she whispered, her voice cracking. Michael didn't even look at her. "I didn't say I'd protect a lie." Ethan shoved through the crowd, face red, jaw tight, fury boiling over. "Rachel, get off that stage right now. If you think this little act is going to—" "It's not an act," Rachel said calmly into the microphone. "It's evidence." She held up the folder again, flipping through document after document. Every page was a nail in the coffin Ethan thought he'd built for her. He lunged for the stage steps to grab her, but Olivia grabbed his arm. Everyone froze. Her voice was shaky, desperate. "Stop! Just stop!" Ethan jerked his arm away. "Not now, Olivia." "No," she said louder. "Now!" Rachel watched Olivia closely. The ornate chandelier above them reflected in Olivia's teary eyes. For the first time, Olivia looked like someone seeing the flames she helped create finally burn her too. Olivia stepped onto the stage, clutching the microphone Michael had set down.
"I need to tell the truth," she said, voice trembling. Ethan stiffened. "Don't you dare." Olivia closed her eyes, bracing herself. "Ethan planned everything, the affair, the transfers, the stories about Rachel being unstable. He told me he wanted out of his marriage, but he couldn't afford a messy divorce." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Olivia continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Ethan planned everything, the affair, the transfers, the stories about Rachel being unstable. He told me he wanted out of his marriage, but he couldn't afford a messy divorce." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Olivia continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. "He told me he would frame Rachel for the illegal transfers, let her take the fall, and then we would start over together. He said Michael would be fine because he'd handle the promotions, the finances, everything." Michael's face twisted in disgust. "You were going to let him ruin her life to upgrade yours?" Olivia looked at him then, really looked at him, and the shame that crossed her face was something raw and small. "I was stupid," she whispered. "I thought Ethan cared about me. I thought he loved me." Ethan barked a harsh laugh. "Loved you? You were convenient." Olivia's breath broke. "Don't twist it now," he snapped. "You knew exactly what you were doing. Don't act innocent." The crowd erupted again. People pointed, whispered, recorded. Ethan realized too late that the room was no longer listening to him. They were watching him unravel. Rachel stepped forward, no microphone this time, her voice still carrying strong. "I want everyone here to understand something," she said. "This isn't about jealousy or insecurity or a marriage falling apart." She lifted the folder one more time. "This is about a man who built his life on lies and tried to destroy mine to protect his own." Ethan finally broke. "You ungrateful!"
He lunged at her, rage twisting his face. But before he could reach her, security stepped in. 2 guards blocked him, gripping his arms firmly. The crowd parted like water, giving him space to be dragged out into the open. And then Vivien stepped forward. Her heels clicked loudly against the ballroom floor as she approached her son. She wasn't crying, she wasn't panicked, she was furious. "What have you done?" she demanded, voice sharp enough to slice the air. Ethan pulled against the guards. "Mother, she's lying! They're lying!" Vivien slapped him. The entire room gasped. Ethan froze, shock washing over his face. Vivien's voice shook, not with fear, but with humiliation. "I raised you better than this." He stared at her as if she were someone he didn't recognize. The guards pulled him away again, and Vivien didn't follow. She turned her back on her son, the effin' blow delivered without words. Michael stepped off the stage and approached Olivia. She reached for him, tears streaming. "Michael, please, I didn't mean for it to go this far." He stepped back. "You were willing to watch her lose everything. That's who you are now." Olivia collapsed into a chair, sobbing alone. No one comforted her. No one approached. She had played victim for so long. But tonight, her performance was stripped bare. Rachel stepped off the stage slowly, her heartbeat finally steady. She wasn't shaking, she wasn't falling apart. She felt like someone who had been underwater for too long and finally surfaced. Michael met her halfway. His voice was soft but steady. "You did it. You took everything he tried to use against you and turned it on him." She nodded. "I didn't do it alone." "No," he admitted, "but you were the only one brave enough to face him." Rachel looked around the room, every face turned toward her, some shocked, some admiring, none pitying. For the first time in months, she didn't feel invisible, she felt seen. She felt whole. Outside the hotel, blue and red lights reflected across the glass as police cars pulled up. Officers stepped inside moments later, moving with purpose toward Ethan. Papers were exchanged, rights were read, and the murmurs in the room turned into something like justice. Rachel watched through the wide doorway as Ethan was escorted into the night, cameras flashing around him. The man who once controlled her entire world now had none left. Inside, Vivien stood still, shoulders stiff, avoiding every reporter who tried to question her. She caught Rachel's eye once, just once, and the look wasn't hateful, it was regret. Olivia sat alone, mascara streaking her cheeks, scrolling through her phone as her life fell apart in real time. Sponsorships gone, invitations revoked, messages filled with disappointment instead of sympathy. She had lost everything she betrayed for. Rachel didn't feel triumph watching them. She felt closure. When the crowd began to thin, Michael walked Rachel to the exit. "What happens now?" he asked. Rachel took a slow breath. "I go home. I call my lawyer. I rebuild. And after that?" She looked at the night sky through the glass doors. It felt bigger than before, wider. "After that," she said softly, "I live." When she stepped outside, the air was cool, calm, steady. Her hair moved gently in the breeze. She closed her eyes and let the moment settle deep inside her. She had survived betrayal, manipulation, isolation, lies. And she didn't survive because she screamed. She survived because she learned to be quiet. Quiet enough to listen, quiet enough to plan, quiet enough to strike. She walked to her car feeling lighter than she had in years, not because her pain was gone, but because she wasn't carrying anyone else's lies anymore. As she reached the door, her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "It's done. You're safe now." She typed back, "Thank you." His reply came instantly. "Don't thank me. You did the hardest part." Rachel smiled faintly, sliding into the driver's seat. She started the engine, the soft hum grounding her. As she pulled away from the hotel, she felt the first real taste of freedom, not the loud kind people cheer for, the quiet kind a wounded person earns with patience, truth, and a refusal to stay small. Trust is earned, betrayal is chosen, and silence, when used wisely, can be the sharpest blade of all. Rachel drove into the night, not away from her past, but towards her future, finally her own.